Hello, Doug. It's so great to meet you. You have so much experience working with disruptive technology, or as you say on your LinkedIn, technologies that continually expand the frontiers of what's possible, which I think is an amazing way to put it. You're also involved with health and fitness tech, which is awesome. I personally love those fields. Your background is extremely impressive, both your academic and practical work and achievements as the former CEO of Ubix.ai and the current director at the University of Wisconsin e-business consortium. So hello and
Yeah.
welcome to the interview.
Yeah, Marty. Hey, look, it's good to be with you. Thrilled about your interest in the area, and of course, it's something to I want to say be acknowledged for a life's work. It's been a real terrific journey, rewarding, exciting, and good.
Yeah, I think the only word I can think of when I scroll through your descriptions on what you do is passion, like true passion for what you do, and that's really admirable. I think that the word's used a lot, but I think that in your case, it's like more than there. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. I guess the first question I have is, what's an underrated technology that you know of that you think will be picking up a lot of steam in the coming decades that's going to change the way we live for good, that no one's seeing coming right now?
You know, that last phrase that you said, that no one has seen coming, is an interesting addition to look for something that's sort of undiscovered. Of course, most of our attention has been, I'll say, diverted into generative AI of late. You know, this rather surprising finding that with a lot of compute and a lot of data, that we can actually generate natural language with a high degree of, you know, fluency, but also reasoning capabilities. I think that's been the most surprising finding of the last couple of years. You know, it dates back to November of 2023, if I have the date right. So, you know, I think outside of that, it's probably going to be the application of agents in our life.
Agents.
This idea, yeah, that we can offload a portion of our work life or personal life to an agent to accomplish a task planfully, with all the tools that we might use if we were working ourselves on a topic. And you know, this is something that's probably been commented on by many, that's kind of the next frontier, where we can string together these powerful tools and capabilities to help, you know, help us all have a digital worker at our behest, that has a fair degree of fluency, is easy to give instructions to, and delivers back content and you know, work in a way that we can understand it.
Yeah, I was looking into agents, and I felt so stupid because for the first time I thought of the idea of multiple chat GPTs working together. I forgot what the term's called. It's like an agentic. Do you know what it is? An agentic workflow or something like that?
I think that's the idea. You know, the concept is that when you kind of identify the work to be done and have a GPT or a large language model generate a plan, then it can also use tools in its process, and you know, that together and the, you know, use of specialized LLMs also kind of allow you to kind of ensemble those capabilities and accomplish more work. It's almost like, you know, having a team of digital workers that are breaking apart the problem, each with a specialized function, and then a way of synthesizing that back together. So I think, you know, again, coming back to your original question, I think that'll probably be the most surprising impact. And it's, you know, we're seeing the earliest days of this. You know, some of the exploration that my member companies are doing with LLMs, I think is indicative of what's going to be possible in the future. We're seeing a lot of the augmentation of the large knowledge stores that they have around customer service, customer care, and what have you, now be augmented by a conversational interface that is just easier to develop, and with retrieval augmented generation can be as trustworthy in the responses, trying to eliminate confabulations or hallucinations, as they're called. So that's an exciting kind of precursor. But I think when we get to a world where I can offload a portion of my work to agents and then just find myself, let's call it reviewing the work, that's really a force multiplier for humans. Yeah,
it's over. No, that would be crazy. Because think of I think of how many interns there are my age. I'm 19, and their whole job is just Excel. Like, if you give ChatGPT Excel, it's like game over. Yeah. It's crazy. Do you agree with that? Like, do you think that's an accurate synthesis of what you're saying?
Yeah. In the what I have, I guess, admired about some of the marketing that we see, and that it's not something I say lightly. Remember, after a career in that business, I certainly know that it can be full of hyperbolic statements, statements that aren't going to come to pass. Yeah. But I do appreciate that, at least with this this generative AI, we have really communicated alongside of the breakthrough in capabilities, the work that we should really think of it as a co-pilot to us. At times it is like an intern. You mentioned yourself as an intern, so I'll kind of, pull on that thread a little bit, that, we understand interns are extraordinarily energetic and willing to please and willing to work hard, but there's also a responsibility we bear as the people giving direction, that we have to be the reviewer of said information. And I am excited about, we're kind of got the training wheels on now, and I think the next generation of these tools will require more of us, almost to be managers of this powerful alien intelligence that we're putting together in the work that we do. But there's no doubt that this sort of digital worker and robotic capabilities will help us be more productive. It can actually help us be more human in our work too. You can ask a generative AI to evaluate what I author from a perspective that I might find it hard to inhabit, a different role or persona or identity. And this, at the same time, it makes us, let's say, more productive. It can also make us more human in our work. And I think that's also, worth pursuing as well.
Because the same people who are afraid about AI, and I don't want to make a big generalization, but also they're like, oh, I hate work. I hate doing this menial task. I hate just putting in number in A1 and then B1 and then C1. It's like, wouldn't it be cool if AI did that for you? Is that what you're saying? Because I think that's a big point. That's a big point, pro AI, like more valuable work, more outcome per employee.
Yeah, exactly.
That's sick.
I think, I've been using a bit on our campus, where we have access to Microsoft's Copilot, which is then protected from us, leaking intellectual property in the public domain. We also subscribe to ChatGPT Team Edition, which allows us to share in our work group GPTs. And, think of these as tuned to the work that we do. It knows about the artifacts we regularly create. It knows about the business model we have. It knows about the member companies that we work closely with. So in that way, it is, tuning the results to be more befitting of who we aspire to be in our communications, clear, authentic, on target, and highly resonant with the business leaders that we're talking with. So it's in many ways, it's now scaffolding that's raised our level of performance, our level of output, and we can move on to higher value work. I'm excited about the future here. Yeah,
it's like everyone could be their like little CEOs of their agent companies, kind of.
It's not unlike that. Yeah, I think that's cool? A fair way of looking at it. Again, I think we're going to be faced with a moment in time where our human attention can be put to the most valuable use, rather to the things that are just marginally valuable or merely necessary. I will say, at some level, you might think that there's never a first draft I will ever write again. What I will write is, who am I speaking with? Here's the context of what I'm attempting to write. And the first draft might be drafted for me. And now I can interact with that with a much higher degree of fidelity, and get out of the blank page problem that, besets so many people. And whether that blank page we're talking about is the first page of a spreadsheet, to look at a marketing program or campaign plan, or that first, sheet is writing an email that's intended to persuade or to inform. Like there's just a lot that's available, as I'll call it, scaffolding under human beings, and it'll kind of recreate the relationship and the expectations of each person in their role to work with their this augmentation, whether we call it artificial intelligence or an agent in this case.
So the way you described it is like so motivating, so galvanizing, so I'd say optimistic, like the whole scaffolding, the whole higher value work thing. Why isn't that, and maybe I'm wrong, but at least from what I'm seeing, why isn't that dominating public opinion? Why is there a lot of skepticism?
Well, I think there's a couple things going on. I think there's been a lack of real authentic trial of the software capabilities. There's an author I follow closely who recommends that everyone have their first 10 hours with the technology, so we can really learn what it's good at, how to interact with it. And until you've done that, I think you, in somewhat of a lazy way, you take the assessments of others. And it's still true that too few people have participated in that sort of authentic engagement with it. And this just goes to show you that whenever we introduce a new technology, it is really human behavior and humans' ability to adapt that is the limiting factor. It's often not the limits of the technology, it's the limits of the humans that work around the technology in the system. But I will also tell you that there are harms, unintended consequences that can come from thoughtlessly employing technology. And, just some of the things that we're going to have to get extraordinarily good at is, protecting for and against, bias, protecting against where, we're overfitting or overgeneralizing a model or its artifacts. There's just a lot that we have to do to, I want to say, protect against the ill effects of a technology applied in earnest. I'm really proud of some of the research happening on our university to make sure that we can see, for example, when a large language model might have an underrepresented set of training data, so that we can, let's call it, reduce the confidence we have in results coming from that area. Like there is just a responsibility that should be incumbent upon those who apply AI to know the limits of quality associated with the predictions, the generative assets that come from them. so it's a really important thing that has to go with it. But that shouldn't overshadow the positive outcomes that can come for a more kind of productive, a more human-centered world that would have us diminish busy work for adding more value.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Yeah. That's awesome. Switching lanes. All right. Everyone in Canada is currently talking about Boson AI, the Etobicoke-based startup determined to break the world's language barriers through its innovative linguistic AI technology. And you reviewed a lot of resources of Boson before this. Given Boson's management, the economy, the market, the competition, and of course the current state of technology and other factors, where do you think Boson AI is heading? And if you were an investor in 2024, would you be interested in Boson?
Yeah, from what you shared, it seems like it's attacking, one of the most pervasive challenges we have, around communication, around languages. So in that sense, there is a kind of a natural inclination to see applications everywhere. So that's fantastic. I mean, one of the things that often drives the interest in a exciting new technology is the addressable market, and that there isn't much area of human activity that's not, let's say, doesn't have language or the opportunity to apply tech like that. Starting, it seems like there's also a great start to life. I want to say proving value and delivery of value in the early revenue and customer cases. I think what will be interesting to see is what are the use cases that drive high value adoption, and in that sense, that will often give you an appropriate kind of a go-to-market plan, so that you address the use cases that are worth addressing where there's the most opportunity. Let's say to address challenges that were heretofore unthinkable.
Yeah. No, the problem solving is crazy. One of my coworkers, one of the smartest people I know, he's from India. He was born in India, and he talks about how much war and conflict and miscommunication there is between different regions of India because of the different languages. And I also have a really good friend from the Punjab region who talks about the same kind of issues. And just thinking this technology would be pretty crazy for that. Do you agree with that? Do you think of any other uses?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. To the degree that our current communication between parties is what's breaking down, I can see why something that helps translate and communicate as effectively, authentically as possible would be a very good thing. And we also have to admit that there are some sort of seemingly intractable problems that I wouldn't say they're beyond language, because that's not what my feelings are, but it isn't merely in the translation in the current language. But hey, look, it seems to be a prerequisite, I guess, is what I would say, right? Necessary for sure, maybe not sufficient.
Yeah. Also, the education side is something I was thinking of. Do you know a lot about like AIs, or do you think a lot or do any research a lot about AI's impact on education? Whether it's something like Boson that could translate educational content to other languages, or AI to standardize the teaching process of the most successful teachers or things like that, being, you know, in an academic university. And
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's not my current responsibility, educating our 50,000 students here on our campus. What I have noticed just following generative AI is that many regard it as a really vital technology to support individualized learning. And I think that's an exciting possibility. I think it was the mid 80s when Benjamin Bloom from MIT observed what he called the two sigma problem. This essentially was the fact that there was a gap between what a student would achieve taught in that many to one, or one teacher to many students form that is so prevalent, to having an individual tutor. And there was a two sigma, if you think of sigma as a representative of standard deviation, change in the mean, and then the distribution about the mean for the outcomes if one could tutor one-on-one. What that meant and why he characterized it as a problem was that there's a two sigma shift, but the problem was we could never afford every person having a tutor. Well, now what we have in the presence of large language models, and let's call it GPT, 4 class models, is we actually have something that can tutor on a topic and, work with the student's interest, their jagged learning profile, right, to help build competency and mastery over a topic. Sam Khan of Khan Academy is probably the most advanced authority on using digital technology and artificial intelligence for this outcome. 100%. And I'm excited to see what they do. I will also say on the other side, like we can, imagine the lifting up of students by having them have a tutor. We also can think of teachers now having a force multiplier as well, that they can give more interesting problem sets, that they can think about educating differently. So, it's both a teaching assistant and teacher's aide, as well as a tutor for students. So that together could be a powerful combination for our future.
Two sigma, two standard deviations above the mean, the results?
Yeah. So if you can imagine that, that's a significant shift in the mean results.
That's a lot. That's like a lot,
and then the distribution, right? It's a ton,
Because to the first standard deviation, now you're above 34% more, right? And then the second one, you add 13.5, right? So that's 47, about 47. You're then doing better than 47.5% more than before.
Yeah, that's right.
That's insane. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, two sigma. I never heard about that, but I'm gonna definitely look into that and research it. And thank you for showing me that. That's incredible. Cool. Okay, so that's AI and education. And Boson. Let's see what else I got in my questions. As former product officer at Ubix.ai, what does successful product management look like to you? What are the biggest success factors for conceptualizing, developing, and of course, releasing product?
Yeah, I think it's kind of an adage that you hear a lot now from the design thinking and the human-centered and user-centered design literature, but it's really to fall in love with problems and not technology. And I want to say that's very useful as a product leader. You have to contextualize the impact of your technologies in a existing process or a new process, and then also understand how we're going to change the humans around it to take advantage of the new process. if indeed change is required.
Yeah.
And I think, you can imagine once we nail that, it is much like as we discussed with ChatGPT adoption and use, is that you still have to inspire a trial so that you win adoption and sustain that adoption over time. So I think that's the biggest challenge and sort of recommendation I have for any product leaders. Fall in love with the problems you're solving for your target customer. And it may be different depending on the target market or the application, but really kind of, love those problems and be curious about those problems. Your technology is best when it's addressing those challenges, and also know your customers and users well enough to know what they're going to invest their time and energy in once you solve that problem, because that's what's going to motivate them. It's not just the solving of the problem, it's what they get to do instead of caring for the thing that you're addressing in their kind of pains or gains that they might have.
So if I can synthesize that, it's like, don't make your product and then find a market. It's like, find your market, people who want to problem solve, then make the product.
Yeah, and in between there, what connects the two is the pains that are in the market, right? In the user definition and the target persona. It's the gains that they might get from that, having that problem solved. And you got to connect that then to, your unique way of solving that, or your unique way of addressing that. But yeah, too frequently the lament of most that are watchers of the product management or product marketing, let's call it discipline, is technology-led versus market or user-led. And we should keep in mind that the source of value is the problems we get to solve with the technology for the end users. It's not the presence of the technology itself and alone.
Yeah, no, because a lot of times when like businesses come out, I don't know, the ones you see on like Instagram or ads or something, like it'd be like blockchain, like AI before the actual thing they do, like some technology they use. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
That's a good example. I think the other thing is I've learned then from the efforts in AI, whether it was at Ubix or at Watson as a part of the IBM Watson team, is that it's about ultimately about the behaviors that have changed, the actions that flow from the investment in AI that make all the difference. So in that sense, there can be really significant gains by rather simple inventions. One of my favorite examples in the health and fitness area is, this invention of a biometrics ring here is changing people's behavior. Yeah, exactly. So it does. It's not the latest technology. It doesn't measure at 100 megahertz. There are things it doesn't do, but when it graphs a sleep cycle for you or tells you on, what your heart rate was last evening, and you can see the effects of a late meal or 3 beers, that has presents a human being with a decision. Which future do I choose?
It's incredible.
And I find that's a melding of the techno-human system, right? That works together. So that's what we have to think about.
Wow, these guys are awesome. These guys are so dope. The Oura ring. I love when the lights come up. It looks like I'm like wearing like some Star Trek fashion or something. I don't know.
Yeah, pretty cool.
They're based in like Finland, I think. Helsinki.
Yeah, indeed.
It's like weird. I don't know. I looked it up one day. I was like, that's cool. Yeah, man. When did you get an Oura ring?
I've been in their camp for probably 4 years now. We used it
That's like
in
early
some.
adopter. Yeah.
It was pretty early for sure. We had talked to some of the leadership team and got a few comp devices and put them on an ultra endurance cyclist to measure sleep cycles. I've always kept my eye on the horizon relative to sports tech, where there might be
Yeah.
an impact. Just this last year, we had an athlete competing in a 3,100-mile nonstop bike race with real-time hydration sensing, real-time muscle oxygen sensing, and I'm trying to think of other things we had going on there. Those are all, we use those interventions as a way to make sure that our athlete can stay safe, because in a 3,100-mile bike race, you're going to want to make sure you don't effort outside of reasonable ranges that would cause you not to finish the race. And there are a ton of them. So.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I was like 90% sure that was an Oura ring, but then I also wasn't sure if it was a wedding ring, and I was gonna look dumb, so I held off on it. But I'm glad you brought it up. I'm not surprised at all. The reason I thought it was an Oura ring is because of your background in health tech and fitness tech. So I got a question about that. So you have extensive academic and practical experience with fitness and health science and technology. So what should people be doing but are not doing right now for their health and fitness? Like the biggest pet peeve you see in people's day-to-days that you just can't unsee after, your work in the field.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in this world of health and fitness is, I think we witness what works, and that's the establishing of good habits. Habits outcompete, great athleticism, and habits will outcompete bad genetics too. So it really pays to have tools, technologies, practices, and people around you that help you win the day, so that you can win the race or win your health goals. I've had a terrific opportunity to get to know some world-class strength and conditioning trainers, and those in kind of the health science domain. And it's really about the establishment of habits and the reinforcement of those habits that is the best predictor of long-term health. Not the seesaw of what is true for so many people's lives, is that periodic focus, and then that waning of attention. So that's one of the reasons why I'm excited about things that help measure more continuous measurement rather than diagnostics that are only done periodically, is that you can often see, and it can become rewarding. And while it's a bit of an overused term, you can gamify it and make it easy to share. And there is a social reward. We as human beings are kind of wired to be social creatures. And if you can use that as a bit of a behavioral hack, that I'm proud to return from a bike ride and share with my cycling buddies that I did 25 miles with 4K of vertical. All right, that's exciting to me. It gives me a little bit of, as Strava might call them, kudos. And it keeps me accountable. Who am I accountable to? I'm accountable to my social graph, to my network. And we can use these, habits, or let's call it proclivities we have as human beings, actually to support healthier habits. That would be a very positive outcome.
Yeah, man. No, that's like, if it's any value, like what you say about the biker group that maybe discourse community. That's exactly, I'm a big gym guy, like lifting. The people who are big and don't take steroids, even the ones who do take steroids too. Everyone who's big, I know, they know all like the gym terminology, and they have friends in the gym. They know all the influencers, and you would expect it. And I don't think though that they got big and then they got into that. I think that they got into the community, and then, like you said, those people, those ideas reinforce daily fitness habits that carry them to getting big and success. So like it's one for one there with what I'm hearing right now, which is like, whoa. Yeah, habits. That's killer. Thank you. Yeah. Say on your LinkedIn that the values at the heart of who you are curiosity, courage, and abundance. What other maxims and beliefs carry you through life and motivate you to do all these amazing things that you've accomplished?
Yeah. Well, Marty, I guess what I would say, I think those are the big things, being curious and having some courage, but also kind of having a sense in which my gain doesn't come from your losing, or your gain doesn't come from me losing. That's what that abundance mindset comes from. I think I've also got an appreciation, and I try to share this with the people I get to support in their careers, is have a sense of patience, and yet a sense of possibility about your work. Patience, and what I would say about that is that people often conclude too quickly what's possible in life or in conversation or in relationship. We take the fact that someone hasn't responded to us in an email as evidence of their lack of interest, when what it is the fact they didn't return an email, maybe due to their own attention and intentions that they have. So don't be quick to judge. Always imagine yourself as kind of part of an unfolding. Be patient with it, and you can be persistent as well. In the domain of possibility, I think too often also we use language in our conversations that cuts off possibilities for ourselves. I like to encourage us to be kinder to ourselves with our self-talk, and also kinder with others. I'm trying to think of a quick example like this, but frequently, again, in relationships, we imagine that and actually talk as if something isn't possible, when we really don't know what the next moment can hold if we just allow ourselves to be open to something changing. Whether that next prospect becomes a customer, whether that next let's call it coworker who feels, you feel that he holds or she holds some grievance. They can also, a little bit of empathy will go a long way to understanding why it is that it appears that way to you. And so patience and possibility are just two aspects of what I think makes for a good life and good livelihood as well in your work.
That's awesome. Doug Barton, folks. Thank you so much.
Marty, Marty, thanks for the time. I really appreciate it. We'll catch up with you soon.